Now to a fascinating story. You might have seen something on this in the Sunday Times. It's regarding the auction of a house in Rivonia on an adjoining property to lilliesleaf farm. It's on this property that it is believed a pistol, a Makarov pistol given to Nelson Mandela by Emperor Haile Selassie in 1962 was buried by Nelson Mandela. There have been digs on the properties owned by the lilliesleaf Trust looking for this particular weapon, and they've realized it's not on their property. It might be on the neighboring property. And the owner of that property has decided, highest bidder gets my land, 5 George Avenue, Rivonia Extension 1, and the man who's doing the auction from the High Street Auction Company, the lead auctioneer, Joff van Renen. Hello there, Joff.
Greetings, David. How are you?
You're very well, thank you, Joff. Have you ever auctioned something that we don't know is actually there? Because really, that's what it's about. It's about the weapon, not about the house.
Correct. So we haven't. It is a fascinating auction. But I think when we were contacted by the owner's attorneys a couple of months ago, we had to sit down and give this some serious thought. And we've obviously spoken to the Lilliesleaf Trust, to Mr. Nicholas Wolpe, and
yes,
in length, and we said, we are taking it to auction. And he said, well, he wishes he could buy it. And he said, if the auction could flush out a donor for him, he'd be all the merrier. It's the logical sense that they do own the property and get the gun.
Have you? I saw in the article that the pistol itself, apparently buried with 200 rounds of ammunition, could be valued at about 22 million rand.
They based it on international collectors of between $2 and $3 million. But I mean, the question is on everyone's tongues, how do you put a price on the legacy of this gun?
Yes, yeah, there's so much historical attachment to it.
Correct.
So how do you start the bidding on a house like this? Because obviously the property is valuable in its own right. It's in a very prestigious area.
It is. You start the bidding very carefully. Well, look, I mean, we're going to look to the floor, to the bidding public to start the auction for us, as we always do. But I mean, you must bear in mind the legacy behind this is enormous. I mean, think of this for a twist in history. Had they found that gun that he'd buried, or any gun for that matter, back in the early 60s, they would have charged everybody with treason. And back then, treason carried the ultimate death penalty. It would have changed the history of our country forever.
It's certainly a fascinating twist there, Joff. And have you had much interest already in the auction?
Well, it started over the last sort of 3 or 4 days. It's growing. I think we've had about 4 or 5 press papers contact us in the course of the morning, and then we're speaking to you now. Look, I think it's going to gather momentum fairly quickly. At the end of the day, everyone is just asking about that pistol.
Yeah.
And, where else could it be except at number 5 George Avenue on Mr. Lentz's property? They've looked everywhere else. This 50-pace radius,
That's
literally
right.
falls in the middle of his kitchen, so to speak.
That's right, underneath his kitchen floor, I believe. So nobody's actually gone around to look at the house. Oh, there's a nice... Oh, it's got 4 bedrooms.
No.
Can we dig up the kitchen floor, is what they all say.
Nobody's been there. It's been owned by one owner for the last 40 years. He was the first person ever to build a house on the old grounds of Lilliesleaf Farm.
Okay.
The rest of the township followed after him. It's been one owner. It's never been for sale, and he's decided to auction it off.
So it's all happening, the auction, 12th of May at Summer Place at 12 o'clock then, Joff?
12 o'clock, that's it.
You're going to have a big media contingent there as well. Lovely.
Sounds like fun.
Thanks for chatting, Joff. Joff van Renen, their lead auctioneer for the High Street Auction Company.